I'm here to talk about is a next practice, and it's all about energy and energy leadership. Einstein said everything that matters is energy. And you know, our brains, we're all electrical, synapses and neurons firing, and we're all energetic beings. So what is this thing called energy leadership? What's your E factor? And hopefully you'll know more about that as we progress. Well, the first step, and I heard the back of the room talk about emotional intelligence. The first step to change is self-awareness. You can't change something that you can't see. And so that is really instrumental in terms of making shifts around our leadership style. And so you're all familiar with this, dating back to Salovey and Daniel Goleman, who I worked with when I was at the Hay Group, put together these constructs about emotional intelligence. And you've probably seen the research too. Center for Creative Leadership said 65% of all executive careers that ultimately get derailed are because of a lack of emotional intelligence. Goleman said that 75% of leadership competencies that are attributed to top performance is around EQ, or EI, however you want to rephrase it. So at one point we sort of thought IQ was it. Back in the 60s, people, children were tested and labeled as smart and not smart, and that label stayed with all of us, many of us in this room, for a lifetime. And we found out later that that really wasn't all encompassing as we thought. And so, hence the evolution of this new construct called emotional intelligence. We thought emotional intelligence was really critical, and we do now totally accept the fact that it is instrumental to leadership effectiveness. What we're proposing is this whole thing called E factor. What is your energetic makeup that is contributing to your success, or perhaps a lack of success? And we'll be talking about that. And before we leave, we have a white paper here that we'll distribute and give you some of the research that's on it. So this is truly a first look. It's truly landmark research that I'll be referencing that has just been updated. In fact, we don't have the final white paper yet, but I'll share some of the statistics. So why is this a next practice? Why consider this? I mean, we've all been through DISC. We've all been through Myers-Briggs. Some of us have taught it for eons. We could probably all, who doesn't remember their four-letter, Myers-Briggs type? Okay, but then who remembers what it means and what the implications are? It's the only program I've been through where you get a little button to wear around and say, I'm a whatever. This is truly something very different. It's attitudinal, and attitudes change over time, over situations. And so the research that we have found, and the scores at the bottom reference one's E factor. So this is the score. We actually have an assessment, 20-minute, 68 questions online that will determine an individual's E factor. This survey also has embedded in it a 14 satisfaction survey. So you can tap into how satisfied each individual is on these 14 factors. And those 14 factors can actually be customized. So what we found is those with, and this turned out to be about the average. If you think about a 7-point scale that's like a Richter scale, it's exponential increments, not arithmetic. The average, we've done 5,000 of these, the average level of energy across all disciplines, all ages, all genders, working, non-working, was 3.1 on a 7-point scale. Now, that sort of makes sense. We carry a lot of baggage. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of things going on at work and at home that we carry with us. And that's really key to this whole concept of energy leadership. What we have found is as we helped individuals shift their level of energy, and we'll talk about how we do that, we saw that productivity more than doubled, actually a 2.5x factor. And this is hot off the press research. As you shift again to another level, we found it increase, and so this stair-step approach is what we have found. And so what would your organization look like with 20, 30, 40, 100% greater productivity? I mean, these things are truly life-changing. Now, we also found that productivity was not at the sacrifice of work-life balance, and we found a similar stair earlier. Some of these may relate. You know, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of worry, there's doubt, uncertainty. We saw in one of the slides that Scott presented, and Donna talked about it too, not believing the boss or not trusting. Statistically, you know, out there, trust is a very serious issue in organizations globally. There's a lot of judging going on, a lot of critical thoughts, and whether you're judging yourself or judging others, that creates this thought process, this feedback process that is not contributing to a better feeling of self and others. The other thing is ego. You know, and also success. You know, a lot of top-level executives have arrived, and so they look around and they say, hey, I've done really well, why should I change? So this is a typical profile, and I really love Dee Dee's comment about winning, because that's what it's really all about, is winning. And winning at all costs is important to all of us, but there's a sacrifice that might be made as a result of that journey. And so what we find, and I've done about 85 of these, and it's all been executive level assessments. So this is one of the profiles or one of the reports that come out of the Energy Leadership Assessment. Now you'll see that across the 7 levels, level 1 and level 2 are truly destructive levels of energy. They contribute to all, and you'll see some of the things in a little bit about negative thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, that inner critic telling us that we're just not capable. And so when you see a profile like this, and you know, truly as we've worked our way up the lab collaborative, trust each other, and we'll talk about techniques for chipping away at this destructive energy. We talked about engagement. That came up in several tabletop discussions, and in Donna's discussion, this data came right out of Gallup. And what's interesting is despite all of the effort and attention and notoriety globally around engagement levels, when you look at the trend, it's pretty flat. So you have to begin to think, okay, now why is that? We're spending money, time, effort, attention. Everyone wants an engaged workforce. Well, when we look at the leadership engagement after using energy leadership, we find exactly the same stair step. It starts low and it builds dramatically, significantly higher. And so one of the things that we find is that, and even Gallup talks about this, you can't have an engaged workforce if the leader isn't engaged.